Welcome back. The MK party says it will table a motion of no confidence against KwaZulu-Natal Premier Thami Ntuli, something that may upset the apple cart for the provincial government consisting of the IFP, the ANC, the DA and the NFP. To strengthen its chance of removing Ntuli, the MK party is also pushing for the vote to be done through a secret ballot. Political analyst Professor Bheki Mngomezulu joins us for more on this. Prof, a very good evening to you. Thanks so much for your time. Not quite the date that the MK party had aimed for, but a date has been set for the 15th of December. Now, for this motion of confidence, what are your thoughts on this one?
Good evening, Masa, and good evening to your viewers. This was a long time coming, and as you just indicated, the MK party was hoping that this vote of no confidence motion was going to be tabled sooner rather than later. But of course, there are processes, government processes, that have to be taken into consideration when a request of this nature happens. But it was a long time coming, particularly because from day one, the MKP was not happy about the fact that the province was led by, or is led by, a coalition government led by Mr. Thami Ntuli, whose party only got 15 seats of the 80 member seats in the legislature, when the MK party is 37. So that was just a bad blood from day one. And then on the other side, you had this coalition that happened at a national level, including the ANC, DA, IFP, and other political parties. But the deal that was clinched at a national level ended up cascading down to KwaZulu-Natal. So that was therefore going to be a problem. It was just a matter of time. Then the behavior and the execution of the responsibility by the Premier and by the coalition government was always going to be put under scrutiny. And then now we have the date set, as you correctly pointed out.
Yeah, and you know, Prof, you were mentioning the numbers as well, and it's very crucial to look at those because they're very, very slim. The MK party holds 37 of the 80 seats. They only need to convince a handful of people to vote with them for this to materialize. Now, the question is, do they have those few people, and will they be able to convince them with or without a secret ballot?
That's a critical question, Masa. We recall that the MK got 37, and then the ANC got 15, the DA got 14, and then of course we had the ANC getting, the NFP getting 1 seat. So basically, if you do the tally, the coalition government has 40 seats, and then the MK party 37 plus EFF with 2, giving it 39. So if the NFP moves its seat to the ANC, to the MK EFF, you get 40-40. Now you need to convince others. So the reason why the MK party is requesting that the speaker, Ms. Boyce, goes for a secret ballot. They are hoping that some of the members of the coalition might vote with them, in which case then they will stand a better chance of getting this motion passed. If that does not happen, then of course it means that the status quo will remain. Now, if you have an open ballot, there are people who would ordinarily have voted with the MK and the EFF, but would not do so in an open ballot. So that's why they are going for, or they are requesting the speaker to allow this voting to take place secretly, with the hope that they will win a few. Because you don't need too many. Like in terms of the seats, if you have 40-40, you just need one person to be either disloyal or to spoil the vote or to be absent on the day, then your deal is cleared.
So a lot of it rests on whether it's going to be a secret ballot or not, and the outcome of the decision whether it's a secret ballot or not will make the difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because remember that what is happening in KwaZulu-Natal is not strange. We've seen the same thing happening at a national level. During the days of former President Zuma, you saw this happening about 9 times, if I'm not mistaken, where Section 89 was invoked. But then if the vote happens openly, you find that people will toe the party line. But if you vote secretly, you stand a better chance of voting through your conscience. So there's a big difference. This time around, then it will be something similar. If you were to vote openly, chances are the MK party will not succeed in its mission. But then if you vote secretly, there are very big prospects of the MK party and the EFF succeeding on the day.
You know, the allegations that were brought forth to inspire this motion of no confidence, the Premier has labelled as sour grapes, and that these sour grapes are, it's just politicking. You know, they've mentioned that he misled the legislature about the cost of a New York trip, talking about issues of governance and the high rate of unemployment as well. Prof, do you think that the Premier has been given enough time, considering that the government of provincial unity has been around for just over a year, or is that enough time to assess his performance?
Masa, we normally assess our office bearers within 100 days to see if indeed they are capable to execute the mandate that they've been given. So we just want to check within 100 days if indeed you are capable. So in this case, it's more than 100 days, so it means they have enough to work with. We have not gone to the extent of assessing the validity of the accusations leveled against Mr. Ntuli, but we're just saying that the time is enough to tell if indeed he's good for the job. And not just him as an individual, because he doesn't take unilateral decisions. He's working together with members of the coalition. So if anything wrong is leveled against Mr. Ntuli, the same accusation will then go to the members of the coalition, because it takes decisions after consulting members of the coalition members. So basically, it means that he cannot be singled out. The only reason that is happening is because he's the Premier, and therefore the buck stops with him, but the decision is a collective decision on whatever matters, whether it's maladministration, whether it's anything else, lack of service delivery. He cannot be held individually liable for that, although he is the Premier. But then, as I say, he works through a coalition.
The coalition is going to rest a lot on making these decisions as well. How would you describe the coalition, the government of provincial unity in KZN, which was basically a baby of the government of national unity that trickled down to a provincial level? We've seen some cracks here and there when it comes to the national government of unity, but of course nothing that has materialized in a complete divorce. But we've seen those threats and those murmurs here and there. From your analysis, Prof, have some of those rumblings trickled down to the province of KZN, feeding from the government of national unity?
Absolutely, Masa, because even the constitution of this provincial legislature happened as a result of a deal that was clinched at a national level. You recall the historic statement that was made by the leader of the IFP, Mr. Belenkosin Tlabisa, where he said that they had clinched a deal at a national level with the DA, ANC, and other parties. But then he said that deal had no bearing on what was going to happen in KwaZulu-Natal. That was before the legislature was constituted. Ironically, in the same statement, on the same day, towards the end of the statement, the same Mr. Tlabisa was saying that as the IFP, they had already proposed the name of Thami Ntuli, and the ANC and the DA had already agreed. So it means the problems we are having now are not new. They started from day one, even before the legislature was put together. And then the other thing that we can also say here is that this coalition, or this multi-party coalition, which they call a government of provincial unity, was put together for political expediency and not necessarily based on substance. And the reason I'm saying this is because we know that at a national level, the DA and the ANC don't see eye to eye. Then you ask yourself, why doesn't the DA walk away? The answer is very simple: blue lights and more blue lights. So people are more concerned about positions and not necessarily about the country. The same then happens in KwaZulu-Natal. There are many members of the coalition who are not happy about this coalition. We have had instances where the ANC was blaming the Cogta minister, that is Reverend Buthelezi, and they were saying that he takes unilateral decisions. You have had a situation recently where the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal was blaming the IFP for usurping power at Mkhanyakude, a district municipality, saying they can't do that when they're working together in the province. But we have not seen a situation whereby there will be a fallout between the ANC and the IFP to the extent of the ANC pulling out of the coalition. nationally, the DA and the ANC, you don't see the DA pulling out of the coalition. So they are still trying to manage the situation, not for the sake of the country, but for their own purposes, because they are benefiting from this. There are people who got positions, they would never have gotten them if it wasn't for this political arrangement that we are having now.
And speaking about positions, just briefly before I let you go, what are the chances, do you think, that Mr. Thami Ntuli will no longer be the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal come Christmas?
If it is a secret ballot, basically, I think it's skating on thin ice. Anything is possible. But then if the vote happens openly, then his position will be secured.
Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to get your insights on political matters.